So in our previous class, we have started with the locators concept, and as part of it, we have seen Playwright built-in locators or Playwright specific locators. And today we'll focus on generic locators like CSS and XPath. So Playwright is also supported CSS and XPath locators, just like how Selenium is supported. Similar way, Playwright is also supported CSS and XPath. So when I give the priority, the first priority is always goes to Playwright specific locators, which we have discussed in the last class. And then second priority goes to CSS and third priority goes to XPath. So Playwright is not suggested to or not recommended to use XPath most of the times. So either we can use Playwright specific locators or we can go with CSS. Okay, because CSS is very faster than XPath. We'll see that. So today we'll focus on CSS locators, how we can work with the CSS locators. So for that, let me create a new class, a new file. Go to the tests, new file, CSS locators dot spec dot ts. Okay. So what is CSS? Means CSS is nothing but a cascading style sheets. So first we'll see some introduction and then we'll start example. So cascading style sheet is nothing but what? SSCS is nothing but cascading style sheets. So normally where the CSS come into picture at the time of web designing or web development, they use HTML, JavaScript along with CSS. So any web page, if you want to design, first if we need to design the HTML elements. So how we can design the elements using HTML, like button, text box, input box, like drop down links. So all are called elements. So the elements will be designed by using HTML. Plus, so to add some action on those elements, suppose if you want to click on button, certain action to be performed. So to add some action or to add behavior to those elements, they add JavaScript along with HTML. Plus, to add some look and feel like colors, styles on the web page, right? Alignment, fonts, to make a website very attractive. They also add something called CSS, cascading style sheets. So all these three together, we can make very attractive websites. Okay, so these are basically related to web designing and development. HTML, JavaScript and CSS. With this combination, we can create a web pages or websites. Okay. So here the CSS will be very useful. CSS we can use as a locators to locate the web elements, especially. Okay. CSS is nothing but a cascading style sheets. Cascading style sheets. So how we can locate elements using CSS? CSS in the sense it is not a property of element. Okay. It is not property of element. We use different kind of properties as part of CSS. For example, if element is having had a ID or name or class or any other attribute, we have some element, we can make use of those attributes and we can create a CSS or we can form a CSS locator by taking help of any attribute of the element. CSS itself is not a direct attribute of element. CSS is nothing but it is a locator type, okay, in which we can use any attribute of the web elements. So CSS is very faster than XPath. We will see that later. So let us see how we can use the CSS and how we can create a CSS locator for the elements and so on. So again, in CSS, we have in CSS locators, we have two types of or two types of CSS we can generate. CSS locators we can generate. Just like in XPath, we have an absolute XPath, relative XPath. Similarly, we also have relative CSS and absolute CSS. We can say absolute CSS selector, or we can say locator. And second is relative CSS locators. Okay, CSS locators. Similarly, absolute XPath we have relative XPath. Similarly, we have absolute CSS and relative CSS. Okay. So we will discuss different combinations. I'll show many examples of absolute and relative CSS XPath. So first of all, let's see how we can use CSS is very generic way. So normally how we can use while in automation when you locating the elements. So we always depends on the attributes of the web element. Any attribute can be ID, name, or CSS or anything, any class or any other attributes are available for that element. We can make use of those attributes as part of CSS. Okay, so I'll discuss the types later. So how we can generically use CSS in our automation. So there are different combinations are there. So let me show you. So if the element is having, every element is commonly having some tag name, right? Without tag name, there is no element. Any element will start with some tag name like anchor tag, img tag, input tag, button tag, div tag, span tag. So these are all tags. So every element, every tag is representing some element. So based on the tag, we can locate. So tag is tag along with ID. Tag and along with ID. So with this combination, we can create a CSS. Similarly, we can say tag and class. If you have a class attribute for the element, we can use tag along with the class as part of CSS. Suppose if you don't have ID or class, then you can take any other attribute along with the tag. So tag uh, with any other attribute along with ID and class. We can also use any other attribute along with the tag. Also, we can use tag with the class and attribute also. Combination of class and attribute is a combination of attributes we can use. So these are the four different ways we can create a CSS selector or CSS locator. So when I use tag with ID, for example, the syntax is first we need to specify the tag name of element. ID is always represented with the hash. Okay, in CSS, ID is representing with the hash. So from now onwards, wherever you see this hash symbol, that is representing an ID. And after hash, we need to specify the value of the ID. From the DOM, we need to capture the value of the ID that you can specify here. So when I want to use tag with ID combination, then you have to use tag hash ID. Okay, this is a syntax. Similarly, if you want to use tag with the class, then tag name dot class name. So dot is representing a class, just like a hash representing an ID, dot representing a class. Okay, tag along with the class. And similarly, if you want to specify tag with any other attribute, I have a tag, but I don't have ID or class. So I want to use some other attribute for the element. In that case, you can say tag and whatever attribute are available for that element, you can put that attribute in the bracket. And here you need to specify the name of the attribute equal to the value of the attribute you have to specify. So this is a syntax. So if you have ID directly, you can say tag hash ID. If you have a class attribute, then you can say tag dot class. And if you have any other attribute other than ID and class, you can put this like tag and the attribute you can put inside the bracket. In case suppose tag class, both are there. If both are available, if both are enough, then you can say tag dot class. But suppose sometimes tag dot class will locate many elements or multiple elements because the class is a generic attribute. You may have multiple elements may match with the class, same class value. So in that case, what we need to do is we can add some additional attribute just for filter the elements. Okay, so how we can do it? Tag and class, anyway, we will know tag dot class. An attribute we can always specify in the bracket. So here, this is an attribute equal to value. Okay, CSS and XPath will work exactly similar way in Selenium. So how we have used in Selenium, exactly in similar way in Playwright also work. Not only Playwright, if you go for any other automation tool, CSS and XPath is universal. Okay, the syntaxes and everything is exactly similar. No change. Okay, so these are commonly used combinations: tag and ID, tag and class, tag with any other attribute, tag with class and attribute. In all these combinations, tag is optional. Even though if you're not specify the tag, still it will work. For example, let's say tag hash ID. So even though if you don't specify tag, simply you can say hash ID. That is enough. Hash is representing ID. Similarly, if I don't use tag dot class, you can simply say dot class. And here also tag is optional. If a tag is optional, we can write simply attribute in the directly bracket. I can say attribute equal to value. This is other way. And here also tag is optional. If tag is optional, you can say dot class. And here I say attribute equal to value. Tag is always optional or this one. Okay, so these are the commonly used CSS locators. So there are other things, other ways also we can create a CSS, absolute and relative and so on. So whatever I have discussed here, 4 combinations are absolute, comes under relative CSS locators. Okay, so relative CSS locators. So I will discuss about this in detail. So what is absolute, what is relative, what are the differences? And also we'll see some examples for absolute, some examples for relative. But these are the 4 generic ways most of the times we use along with CSS. Okay. Okay. So, but how to use this CSS locator in our Playwright? So in Selenium, we have a find element by dot CSS locator of, then we can specify, but in Playwright, XPath and CSS. If we want to use XPath and CSS, we have a special method actually. So page dot from the page picture, we can access a method called locator, page dot locator. And inside the bracket, we need to specify either CSS or we can specify directly XPath. So this is a syntax. This is a method which we have to use to specify either CSS or XPath. Same method, page dot locator. Okay, this is the method we have. All right, so now let's see how we can use these locators practically on your website. So later on, we will discuss many different combinations on absolute and relative CSS. Okay. So to demonstrate this, I'm going to take a small web page. You can take any website to demonstrate all these locators. So I'm just taking some Wemo website. This is also another e-commerce application, demowebshop.transit.com. Okay, this is my page. So let us try to locate some elements using CSS. Okay. So for example, let's take some element. I'm inspecting this input box, right? So if I look at this element, there are so many types of attributes are there. You can see there is a name attribute, ID attribute, class is also available. So there are many attributes are there. So now I want to locate this element. I want to locate this element using CSS. Okay. And I'll take a first combination first. So here I have a ID, tag and ID combination, right? Or you can say hash ID. So how to locate this element using ID attribute of CSS? So very simple. You can just open the DOM and here you can simply say Control F. Once you press Control F here in the small box, you can see in the dev tools or in the DOM. Here you can directly paste your CSS and that will highlight the element directly. For example, so look at this element. This is my input box, right? So in input box, in the search box, what is a tag of this input box? Input is my tag name. So I say input. See, for this input tag, there are 17 elements are there. Now input hash. So ID is available or not for this element? Yes, the ID is available for this element. Let me inspect this once again. Yeah, this is the ID is available, right? So now how we can specify ID? Input hash the value of the ID. Now you can see this is exactly matching with one element. Input is my tag name, hash, small search item is the value of the ID. So this is the one way we can create a CSS here and you can cross check whether the CSS is correctly matching with this element or not. And you can verify here how many elements it is matching. This is the dev tools option and other option is using SelectorsHub extension. You can do that. So you can install SelectorsHub extension and this will help you to create CSS and XPath automatically. And also you can create your own XPath and CSS, and you can cross check whether your CSS and XPath is properly matching with these elements or not. Suppose same CSS I pasted here, press enter. Now you can see one element is matching. Okay, SelectorsHub is a locators tool where you can find all kinds of locators, relative CSS, XPath, index XPath, so many locators you can find here. So this is very helpful, reduce our task at the time of writing a locator. There are many features are there in this SelectorsHub. Later I will discuss about this. So for now, try to do this. Okay, so whatever the CSS we have generated, you can just paste it over here, press enter. It will show you how many elements are exactly matched. Okay, and as I said, tag is optional, right? So if I remove this tag, still it will match with the element. So with this ID, it is matching with one single element. Okay, so how we can use in your automation? So let's create a simple script here to demonstrate this combinations of CSS. Okay, so for that I'm creating, first of all, I'm importing import test and also expect from at the rate playwright slash test. So I have imported required modules, and then let me write a test. And here the first parameter is what? Title. So title of the test, I can say verify CSS locators. And the second parameter is what? Arrow function. So this is our arrow function, and curly brace started. And this arrow function, before the arrow function, we use async keyword, and along with we need to take page picture as a parameter. Okay, this is the structure of the test method. So now let us start creating the test. So how to launch the page? await.goto, and I will launch this particular application. This is a page. So once you launch, so once await.page.goto, okay, await page.goto, and then URL. So first combination is what? Tag and ID. So tag and ID, how we can separate? Using hash. So now I'm writing a locator. Listen this carefully. So page picture we have to use, right? So page.locator, and here we can simply paste your CSS as it is. You can put this shortcut, or you can put hash tag. If you want to put, you can put tag also. Input hash small search item. So this will basically return the element. So if I just end the statement here, so what this will return? The locator method will return a locator object. Will it return promise or not? This won't return any promise. Okay, so the locator method won't return any promise. Okay, locator method won't return any promise. Why? Because it won't perform any action. It is just identifying the element using the CSS which we provided. So we can store that in a variable itself. Okay, we can store, let's say, search box equal search box, which is a locator type, And when I use locator type, you have to import that locator also, like this. And we can specify the variable as a const or let, whichever you want. So this is search box is a locator. Okay, and then equal to. So this is how we can get the element using CSS and store that in a variable. So here we don't need await because it is not returning a promise. So once you get the search box, we can perform an action. So search box dot. So how can add value to the input box? How we can provide a value to the input box? What is the method? Fill. So fill, and here I can pass some value. Let's say t-shirts, like that. Okay, simple. So two statements. And do we really require await statement here in the second statement? Await is required. So what is a fill method is returning? Fill method returning the promise, because which is an action actually. Fill is an action. So definitely we have to use await. Okay. So we can write a two statement like this, or if I don't want to store this locator in a variable, then you can directly keep this inside the here. You can directly put this inside the search box instead of that. Okay. So if you want to combine the one single statement, what you can do, first you need to get the locator and directly as a dot fill, you can say t-shirts like that. You can put single. So now you tell me await is required or not. Await here. Yes or no? Yes. Because at the end, the method we have to choose. Okay. The end method, if returns promise, you have to returns. So it should be await. Okay. Single statement. So again, the tag name is optional. Okay. Tag name is optional. So I just fill some data. That's it. I have not added any expect or any validation. Right. So if you want to verify this, suppose if this element is present or not, so you can add another method. Dot. We need to keep this in expect method. Expect. Here await is not needed. Expect. So this element, whatever element we have captured, dot, we can to be visible. So that element I'm verifying it is a visible or not. So to be visible method, return a promise. So in that case, here we have to keep await statement. So before sending the value into the in the input box, I'm just verifying the visibility of the element. Okay. So let me just run it. So you can say test space CSS locators dot spec dot ts. I'm just running in the headed mode and we'll see. So it will go very faster. So I think we cannot see the output in the page. So it is launched my page. Done. Okay. So one is got passed means that values got entered into the input box. So because I put one assertion, it is got passed. Okay. So this is a tag and ID. Even if you remove the tag name, still it will work. So I can say comment this. I just remove the tag name. I just provide hash ID. That's it. This is also CSS. Clear. Now I'm just running and remove the headed mode. So it will go very faster. Okay. So yeah. So now it is done. It is get passed. Okay. So this is how we can see that. Suppose if you want to, yeah. So yes, there is a method to see the page actually. So after execution is completed, you can pass the page for sometimes. You need to add some different promise for that. Okay, let me show you how we can add that promise. So page dot wait for timeout. If we add this, let me show you this. Let's say I'm running in headed mode. You can see that is got failed actually. So let me keep a wait. I think this statement won't appropriate here. Yeah, okay, fine. So you can see that value, right? So I just make it 5 seconds and let me run once again. So this is just for pausing the execution for some time. You can see that values got entered here. Okay. Right. So this is how we can just use CSS using ID attribute. Okay. So can we make fixture as global, like import page test expect locator instead of writing inside the test? No. We should specify at the beginning of the test. Okay, so we don't write this inside the test actually. So there is another way. By using configuration file, we can avoid to specify this import in every test. But for now, just follow this approach. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is how we can use CSS with tag and ID combination. So both are exactly the same. Now, so let me show you another combination. This is the tag and ID. So the next one is tag and class. Tag and class. So to locate the element using tag and class, the class attribute should be there for the element. So again, look at the same element, same search box. So this time I'm taking the class attribute. If I look at the class, so this is complete value, search hyphen box hyphen text. And also there is a space in between. So sometimes when I use a class attribute, you can see the space, right? So you can just eliminate the space part. So this part you can eliminate and rest of the value you can take. So let's see how we can locate this using class. And what is the syntax of this? Input is a tag name. And when I use class, use dot. And the value of the class is search hyphen box hyphen text. So one element is matching. So this is tag along with class attribute. Okay, now we can look at this. Tag dot class. This is another combination. So what I'll say, page dot locator, and keep that like this. So input dot search box, and this is the class, and dot again fill. I'm directly using fill method. Say t-shirts. Okay, and await is required here. Yes. So single statement I've written. So await page dot locator and tag dot class dot fill. Simple statement. Okay, now let's see. Okay, so now it is enter the value. After 5 seconds, it will automatically exit. Okay, so one single statement. So input is optional. You can write the same statement using without having tag. Even if you remove the tag name, that is optional. So always remember hash representing the ID, dot representing the class. Okay, done. So this is tag and class. The next one, tag with any other attribute. For example, let's say ID class is not available. Some other attributes are available for example, name or placeholder, something like that. So then you can use another combination. Tag attribute. Attribute we need to keep inside the bracket. Attribute equal to the value of the attribute also we need to specify. Yeah. So as I said, if there is any space in the class like this, okay, so it won't take the value after the space sometimes. So in that case, you can just take the only first part of the CSS, only this part. Okay. Sometimes it may take or it may not take, it depends. So what you need to do, whenever you have some space, just try to avoid the second part. So before try to use this in your automation, try to check it here. Okay, in SelectorsHub or in DevTools, check it here, working or not. If sometimes if provide the full class name, it should work. Sometimes it may not work whenever you have some spaces here. So in that case, take the first value and use it as a CSS. Okay. So most of the times we have to give the full name. Okay, if don't have any spaces, then you have to give the complete value. But if there is any space, then you have to cross check once if it is working with the full value or not. Okay, accordingly, you can provide the value. All right, so yes, so class name you have to give completely until unless you have some space, just you can avoid after space. Otherwise, you need to completely provide the class name. Okay. So no, so you cannot provide two classes. You can provide only one class at a time. All right. So this is tag and class, single value of the class. Now attribute and value. So how to use an attribute and value? So again, take the same element and how we can write attribute. Let's say you can use any other attribute other than ID and class. So input is a tag and attribute we need to keep inside the bracket. So you can take any other attribute. For example, you can take a value attribute or name attribute, anything you can take. So how we can use that? Name equal to Q. So this is matching with one element. This is another CSS locator. So you can try to use it. I can say await page dot locator, and in the double quotes specify this attribute. So input is a tag, name equal to Q is a attribute and value dot fill t-shirts. So this is the way we can use, or else tag is optional. So tag is optional in the sense you can remove the tag name. Just remove the input. Simply say bracket name equal to Q. That's it. So again, this will work in the similar way. So you can use any other attribute if you don't have ID or class. So this will work like that. Okay, single or double quote is not needed here. Okay, because the whole CSS and value we kept inside the double quotations. So inside this is not needed. If you want to keep, you can simply say single quote is, you can keep it. Okay, so this will still work. Okay, yes. So double quotations inside the double quotations are not allowed. So that is the reason we should put either single quote, or even if you remove the single quote, still that is fine. Okay, this will match with the element. So this is attribute, tag and attribute. So the third one, tag with any other attribute. Any other attribute means you can put any other attribute like other than class and ID. If it is not available, then you can take any other attribute of the element. Sometimes a tag and attribute, if I use tag and class, sometimes it will match with multiple elements, more than one element. In that case, you can also additionally add one more attribute along with the tag and class. Tag with class and attribute. So this is another combination which we can use. So this is tag class along with attribute. So let's see how we can create this. So I'm taking the same element again. So what is a tag here is input is my tag name, input. And how we can separate tag and class using dot. So input to dot. So what is a class which you have? Search box text. Again, take the small part of this class. So this is a tag and class. As of now, it is matching with only one element. If it is identifying element uniquely, so you don't need to provide any additional attribute. But sometimes if it is matching with more than one element, then you need to identify one unique attribute for those two elements, and that you can add here just for filter. So here I'm just adding another attribute. Let's say there is a value and a name is also there. So I'm just taking value this time. So in this attribute, I can say value is equal to. So what is the value of the value attribute? Search store. So that you can keep it here. See, it is giving an error. Input is my tag, and search hyphen box text is a class, and value equal to search store. So you can just keep inside the single quote. Why it is invalid? We missed something here. So tag and a class, and the value equal to search store. Yes, we missed something here. Invalid CSS selector, special character not allowed outside of the bracket. special character. We typed some special character somewhere. And you can look at here, the selector hub also help us. Input search hyphen box text. And here we put some bracket. Here you should not put this. You can just remove this quotes. Okay. This is not matching with any element. Let's remove the single quote. Is an error. Okay, because there is a space in this value. So you need to keep inside the singular double quote. Only the value you need to keep like this. So 0 element is matching. Or let us use some ID. A name. So name equal to what? Q. Again, still 0 element is matching. So input tag is optional. Okay, anyway. So search box text and bracket name or value. So you can just put single quote. It should work actually. Have you missed anything here? CSS input is my tag name. Search box text. Okay. There is some space, I think. Okay, perfect. So this is one element. So this is my tag and search hyphen box text is a class and attribute name equal to Q. So let's try to use another attribute. Value is working fine. So name is working fine. Let's say value. So value equal to search store. So let me put search store. Okay, still it is working fine. Right. So let's use this locator. Await page dot locator. And this is the locator for tag, class, and attribute. Again, tag is optional. Dot fill t-shirts. Okay. So this is the element. And again, tag is optional. So you can just simply remove the tag. So dot should be there. Okay. Dot should representing the class. So tag, class, and attribute and value. Okay. So now it is enter some value. Okay. Similarly, you can use any attributes of this element. So the class we have used, tag we have used, class along with attribute. Attribute in the sense you can use any attributes of this element, whatever it is available. Okay. So these are the commonly used 4 different combinations of CSS locator. These are all comes under relative CSS locators. Okay, so if you go back and SelectorsHub, how to add this extension, it is very helpful. So very simple. You can just go to Chrome Web Store, and from here you can get the extension. You can just search for SelectorsHub, and it will show you SelectorsHub XPath Helper. If I click on it, because I already installed, it won't show. But in your case here, you can see install into Chrome. So you will see install button here. So once you click on it, that extension will be added to your Chrome browser. It supports all the browsers. It is available. Okay, so this is a SelectorsHub. So it will automatically get all the locators for this element. You can just take any element and it will automatically generate the locators. It is help us. So you can see this is relative CSS locator is got generated. So what is this combination? IMG is a tag or it is an attribute. So tag and attribute combination, it is generated CSS. Similarly, it is also generate XPaths and other locators, like it is saying tag name is IMG. This is an absolute XPath. This is the relative XPath. This is CSS. So all the locators by default generated by SelectorsHub. Okay. You can just add this extension. You can play with that. Right. So most of the times we use these 4 combinations of CSS locator, either tag ID, a class, and tag with any other attribute, or tag with class and attribute. Okay. So apart from that, so we have a different type of CSS locators, as I said, absolute CSS locator and relative CSS locators. And along with this CSS locators, we can also use certain methods which are available. So let us try to explore them. So to demonstrate this CSS, types of CSS like absolute and relative CSS locators, I'm just taking one application and we will try to explore different types of CSS. So let me take a simple web page so that you can easily understand the different combinations of CSS locators. Okay. So in this web page, so first let us start with absolute CSS locators. So what is an absolute means? The complete CSS locator from the root. So absolute in the sense what? The absolute CSS locators will start from the root HTML. So when I inspect this page in the DOM, what is the root where the root will start from the HTML tag? This is called root. Okay, for example, if I want to write CSS for this particular element, I want to navigate from the root. So we need to go to head, HTML, head, body, then div, and another div, then h1. Here I can find the element. This is called absolute, means the complete path from the root HTML. Relative is nothing but we can directly jump to that element. By specifying some attribute or some property, we can directly jump to that element. That's called relative CSS or relative path. Absolute path and relative path. Okay. So first let us start with absolute path. How we can locate elements by writing absolute CSS locator. So for that, I'm trying to use the SelectorsHub also to verify the locator is correct or not. Or you can use DevTools search box, Control F. Here also you can directly type it here. Okay. So let us start with absolute CSS locator. So for example, let's say if I say only HTML, I'm just specifying only simple tag name. So what is HTML here? HTML is a root node. So when I enter, only one element is matching. Why? Because there is only one HTML tag is available throughout the DOM. And the HTML is representing the whole page, the complete page on your browser. Okay, suppose if you want to represent the header part, where is this header? Head tag is present inside the HTML. Now I want to represent only head element. And then you can use something called greater than head. So what is this greater than used? This is for navigation purpose. Especially in the absolute CSS, we use this greater than symbol for navigation. So HTML is a root. Inside the HTML, we have a head. So how many head tags are there in the DOM? We have only one head tag. So when I enter, again, it is matching with one element. So one head tag is matching. So greater than is representing the navigation. Okay, for example, let's say in the header tag, we have a title. So I want to write CSS to locate this title element. I want to write a CSS which will locate with this title element. So now how we can write this? From where we have to start HTML. Inside the HTML, we have a head. Inside the head, we have a title. Inside the head, we have a title. Now you can see one element is matching. So the title of the web page, if you want to capture, you can use the CSS. So the greater than symbol is representing the navigation. So HTML is a parent element. Inside this head is a child element. Inside the head, title is another child element of head element. Okay. So similarly, let's say I want to locate a header tag. I want to locate the header tag. For example, let's say inside the body here. So basic web page example. So this is my header. So I want to locate this element. Okay, so how to write an absolute CSS to locate this element? Basic web page example. So you need to again start from the root. So what is the root here? HTML is a root. So go to HTML. And inside the HTML, there are two child nodes are there. So where we need to navigate now? Head or body? We need to navigate to the head or body. In header tag, we don't have it. Where is that basic web page example is present? Inside the body tag. So HTML, from HTML, we need to go to body. So inside the body, again, there is a a child tag, which is called div tag is present. So again, we need to go to the div, right? So inside the div, if I expand this div tag, again, there are multiple elements are there. These are all child elements of this parent div element. So now I want to extract this h1. From this parent div, I want to extract this h1. So we can directly specify h1. This is an XPath, sorry, this is an CSS, absolute CSS, which is exactly matching with this element. Okay, this is how we need to navigate. This is all absolute XPath. Yeah, it seems like XPath, but it is different. Okay, so in XPath, we use something called slashes, but here we use greater than symbol. Okay, this is for navigation, right? So to locate this element, if you want to write a absolute CSS, you need to write like this. And SelectorsHub won't generate absolute CSS. Okay, absolute CSS won't generate. It is directly generate the relative CSS locator. Remember that. Okay, it will generate absolute XPath and relative XPath, but it will generate only relative CSS. It won't generate the absolute CSS, but still we can verify whatever the CSS we have generated, which is correctly identifying element or not, we can check it. Okay, so this is how we can write the locator. Similarly, let me show you some more example. Let's say I want to locate, let's say this particular CSS is matching with what? This particular heading. Okay. And there is a big difference between CSS and XPath, guys. In the CSS, we can navigate only from top to bottom. We cannot go back the parent or ancestor, something like that. So CSS allow us to navigate only from top to bottom. But in XPath, we can navigate from top to bottom and bottom to top. So both the bidirectional procedure is available in only in XPath, but in CSS, only top to bottom approach is followed. Okay. So locating the ancestor node or locating the parent node is not possible. Okay, so I will clarify the questions at the end of the session. So please focus on the concept now. Okay, so this is how we can use absolute XPath, HTML, body, div, and h1. Okay, now inside the body, and you can see there are multiple div tags are there. And in the second div tag, there is a P, page element is there. So actually, what is this P? This is representing this element, this particular text. So I want to locate this particular text element. So now how to, yeah, this P is representing the paragraph element. So how we can represent that? So using absolute CSS, because this won't we will use. Okay, so remember, this is just for your information or understanding I'm showing you, but in the real time or in your automation script, we never use absolute CSS. We always use relative CSS. We always use relative CSS. Okay, so HTML, inside the HTML, where we need to navigate body, right? So inside the body, so you can see inside the body again, there are div, there is one div tag is there. Inside the body, there is a div. So div, right? When I enter here, there is one div, so one element is matching. And inside the div, there are multiple divs are there. Okay, there are multiple divs. So again, I will specify one more div. 4 elements are matching. See this? HTML inside the body, there is a one div parent. Inside this, how many divs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So totally 4 divs are there. So 4 elements are matching. H1 is not comes under the div. Okay, H1 is another independent child of the parent div tag. So inside the main div tag, how many divs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 are there. So 4 are matching. Now inside the div, I want to extract only paragraph as a P. Again, 4 elements. So why it is 4 elements? Because in every div tag here, in the first div tag, we don't have a P elements. In the second div tag, we have one P element. Right? In the third div tag also, we have a 2 more P elements. In the next div tag also, we have a 1 P element. So totally, how many P's are there? 4 P's are there. So 4 paragraphs are there inside the div. When I say P, it will get all the paragraph from all the div tags. Okay, suppose I want to get P's only from specific div tag. Let's say I have in the second div tag. In the second div tag, how many P's are there? Only one P. Let's say go to my third div tag. 1, 2, 3. The third div tag. In the third div tag, there are two P's are there. Now we want to capture P's only from third div tag. Only from third div tag. So then how we can see? Body, div. Here we can specify like this. So this will work or not? So this won't work. This is an array. It will work in XPath, but here it will not work. So here we need to use a method, or we can use some ID, something like that. So we can say HTML, body, div, and div. So here, which div it is matching? 4 elements are matching. Again, if you want to get first div or second div or specific div, so we have certain methods are there. So we have certain methods are there. Like we have a first element, second element, nth element. Okay, something like this. We have to use certain method to get those elements. I'll discuss those methods one by one. So there are 2 to 3 methods are there. First element, last element. And if you want to specify a specific element, you can specify that nth element. For example, let's say here it is matching 4 div elements. And you can say colon. This is a syntax actually. So colon. First element, there is a method called first child, last child, or nth child. They say nth child. I'm using nth child method. And here you can specify the number. Okay, so just like in XPath, array will not work here. So when I say 2 here, then it is matching 0 element, because for this div, there is no child element. Let me check it first. Remove this part. 4 elements are matching. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4 divs are matching. So in 4 divs, this div we need to remove actually, because it is giving 4 elements. We need to remove this div. So currently 1 element. Inside this, because this div, there are 4 childs are there. So here we need to write the nth child method like this. So here the div tag, and single colon should be required. Single colon nth child of 2. Again, 0 element. Because for this div element, there is no nth child. Okay, let me say 3 is working. No. So which div is matching here? Let me check. Or else, okay. So when I use child element, let's say star. Let's say star, 0 element. Star colon nth hyphen child of 2. Okay. So we'll see these methods, 3 methods later. For now, I'm writing one CSS HTML slash div HTML slash body slash div. And this is matching with 1 element, the whole div. And inside this, another div, 4 elements. Inside this, all paragraphs I want to get, simply say P. So this will get all the paragraphs independently. So this one, this one, this one. Okay, so this is one absolute XPath. These are all absolute XPath. So the writing these methods are not appropriate inside this absolute CSS. If it is a relative XPath, we can effectively use all the methods like first element, last element, nth element, and so on. Okay, now let me show you a few more things. Let's say it is returning 4 elements are matching, but I want to extract a specific paragraph element. Let's say this one or this one or this one, specific, a paragraph of text. So I want to extract only this one element, one paragraph element. Currently it is matching 4 elements, but I want to extract only this one. So then we can provide some attribute of the element. So if I look at here, where exactly a paragraph of text is present, I think in the second div, no, in the third div tag. So go to the third div tag. Inside the third div tag, how many paragraphs are there? So there are 2 paragraphs are there. So let us navigate to the third div tag. So HTML, body, div, and third div tag. So I can just remove this one. So HTML, body, div, and inside this div, I'll put another div tag. So 4 elements are matching. Now I want to extract only this particular. There are multiple paragraphs are there, but I want to extract only this one. So when I say P here, it is matching with all paragraphs, but I want to extract only this one. So then you can pass an attribute of the specific element. So how we can specify attribute in the bracket? You can say, you can use any attribute, ID, or the CSS value is also there, right? You can say ID equal to para 1. So one element is matching. Okay. Or else you can, suppose I want to match with the second element. I can say para 2. So second, another paragraph of test is matching. So if I don't specify this attribute, by default, 4 elements are matching, 4 paragraphs are matching. And if you want to extract a specific element, then provide the attribute along with the tag. So this will extract a specific element, one element. Okay. And you can also use class. So for example, I want to extract the second element, another paragraph of text I want to extract. So what is an attribute? We have a class. So instead of ID, you can also use class. Class equal to, I can say sub. So this is matching one element. Another paragraph of text is matching. Or class equal to main. This is matching a paragraph of text. So this one is got matched. So if you have a multiple web elements matching with this absolute CSS, then to extract the unique element, then you can add some additional attribute like this. Okay, and one more thing. Can we use ID here? Because we already have IDs. Yes, ID also we can use. So you can say ID and I say para 1. So this is matching with this element, a paragraph of text. So when I say para 2, second element, another paragraph of text is matching. So again here, P, and we specify attribute ID paragraph 2. So if ID is directly present, we can directly specify the ID value using hash also, right? So instead of that, you can directly say hash para 2. That is also enough. So P is a tag. And here tag and ID, how we can specify tag and ID combination? Tag hash the value of ID. So this is again relative. This part is relative. It's a combination of absolute and relative CSS. So this is also matching. So when I say para 1, so first element matching, para 2, another element is matching. So here the tag and the ID combination we have used. But till here, this part is again absolute CSS. Okay. So this is how we can use a different combination. So can we put multiple attributes? For example, let's say I put one attribute like this, tag and ID. Now I want to add another attribute. Is it possible? Let's say here ID equal to para 1. So currently it is matching with one element. Now I want to some additionally add one more attribute. You can simply add like this. You can say ID equal to para 2. So 0 element is matching. But ID para 2, ID para 1 won't match, right? Because both IDs are represent two different elements. So here we use same thing. Class equal to main. So now first element is matching. So ID para 1 class main. So with these two attributes, this element is got matched. Para 1 and main. Similarly, you can say para 2 and a class equal to sub. So this is also matching the second element. So you can also add multiple attributes like that. So this is one attribute, this is another attribute for the same element. Okay. So these are all absolute CSS locators. These are all absolute CSS locators. But this is not preferable to use. So there is a disadvantage in this. So what is the disadvantage of using absolute CSS? Even absolute XPath also we never use. So there is a disadvantages. So when I write complete CSS like that, suppose if there are any changes that happen in the web page, right? So obviously what happens? The structure will be broken, right? So suppose if this element is placed in somewhere else or any new element is introduced in between these two elements, so automatically the hierarchy is impacted. the tags will be broken. So suppose today this div tag is here. Tomorrow, if this element is moved to somewhere else, this div tag will not be there. So in that case, it will definitely will be broken. So that is the reason absolute XPath or absolute CSS is not preferable to use in our automation. Okay. So because the changes will keep happening on the web page. So definitely our paths, absolute paths will automatically impact the pages. So this is not preferable, right? Now, how to create relative CSS? I'll show you some of the examples of relative CSS. So when I use absolute CSS, always we use greater than symbol for navigation. But in relative, we never use this one. But sometimes we use the combination. So this is relative here, but this part is absolute. So when I use combination, it is possible. But if I write CSS purely relative CSS locator, then we don't use this greater than symbols. Okay. Yes. So we can also use additional or multiple CSS paths. Yes. So whatever is supported in Selenium, how CSS and XPath supported in Selenium, exactly similar way, it is also supported in Playwright. So there is no difference because CSS and XPath is a universal concept. For all other automation tools, it works in exactly similar way. No change at all. Okay. So now let me show you how we can work with the relative CSS locators. Okay, suppose I have, what is the major difference between absolute and relative? Absolute means we need to start from the root and navigate to each and every node till we find that element. But in relative CSS, we can directly jump to that element. We never navigate to each and every element. So relative CSS is always safe. For example, I want to capture all the paragraphs in the page. So what is the tag name of the paragraphs? P is a tag name, right? Simply we say P here. 4 elements are matching. Simple. One single letter, P, tag name. Once I specify the tag name, 4 elements are matching. Again, if you want to capture pages or paragraph inside the body, you can say body also. Body. When I say body, only one element. Inside the body, I want to capture all the paragraphs. Simply give one space also and say P, space P. This is also correct. And even if you don't specify the body also, it will directly go to P. So what we can understand about this is whenever you say something here, that will directly navigate it to that element. So it won't consider the element. Like if I say P, it directly jump and capture all the paragraph elements. It is not navigated HTML, head, body. It is not navigated, right? So it is directly getting this. Suppose if you want to capture a specific paragraph element, let's say I have this element, a paragraph of test. I want to capture this element by using relative CSS. So how we can write CSS now? ID is there. So how we can write CSS using ID? Tag and ID combination, right? So what is the tag here? P is a tag. ID, how we can specify ID? Hash. What is the value of the ID? Para 1. So I can say para 1. That's it. One element is matching. This is the direct. Tag and ID combination. Tag and ID, we can use hash. And ID itself is an attribute also, right? ID is also an attribute. So how we can write if it is an attribute form? Keep it in the bracket. So you need to specify this is an ID. Like this also you can write. This is also matching with that element. So whichever way you want, you can write a relative CSS locator. So tag with ID, we can use hash as a separator, or you can put the ID as an attribute like this. Anything is fine. And can we remove P here? Yes, because tag is optional, still this will work. This is matching with one element. Okay. So similarly, I can use class attribute also. For example, let's say I have a class equal to main. So with this attribute also, we can locate the element. So how we can write a relative P, and can we use class with hash or dot? Dot we can use, right? So P dot, I say main. Just observe P dot main. So what is a P here? P is a tag name. What is a main? Main is a class. So this is locating the element. And P dot sub. Second element is matching, one element, because class value is equal to sub. Okay, this is how we can use tag dot class. Can we put this class as an attribute? Yes. So in the bracket, you can specify the attribute name equal to sub. This is also correct. One element is matching. And again, tag is optional. I can remove the tag name and still it is matching with one element. So the different ways we can create like this, class and attribute. Okay, so now sometimes we want to access child elements. So as I said before, in the CSS, we can navigate top to bottom, but we cannot navigate to bottom to top. So if you know the parent element, we can capture the child elements from the parent element. But if you know the child element, from the child element, you cannot capture the parent element. So for example, let's say I will write something here. I say I will go to body. Again, this is absolute XPath, absolute CSS. When I say body here, the entire body is matched. And I say div here, one element is matched. Look at here, body, there is only one div here. Okay, so inside the div, how many divs are there? There are so many divs are there. So what are these divs actually? These are all 4 divs are childs of the main div tag. So the div class equal to page body. So this is the main div tag. Inside the div tag, there are 4 childs are there. So when you say here star, 5 elements are matching. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, inside the div, I think there is another div tags are there. So all divs are matching. Star is a regular expression matching with all the tags. Okay, all the tags. So, but in all those tags, I want to extract only child tags. Only child tags. So only star means it is capturing all the child tags, but I want to extract only first child. Only first child tag I want to extract. So inside the div, how many childs are there? One element. Again, when I say div, 4 elements are there. But I want to, if I say div, only one element is there. So this is the main parent div actually. Inside this 1, 2, 3, 4 childs are there. Among these 4 childs, I want to extract the first child element. Among these 4 childs, I want to extract the first child element. So in that case, we can use star. So one div we already kept. So bracket star representing all the childs. But in all the childs, we need to extract the first child. Colon first hyphen child. This is a method which we have to use. First hyphen child. So what does that mean? First it will go to body. Then it will go to main div. Inside the main div, 1, 2, 3, 4 childs are there, but among the 4 childs, I want to extract the first child. So I say first hyphen child. One element is matching. Which one is a first child? This one. The heading is a first child. First child. And similarly, we don't have a second child, third child like that. We have only 3 options are there. First child, last child, nth child. So instead of the first child, I'll say last child. So now it will return the last one. So you can see the footer is a last child element. For this div tag, footer, this one is a last div tag. Suppose I want to get some other paragraph element or another child. Like say this one or this one I want to get. Then you have to specify the number. So how we can specify the number? Colon, nth child. Nth hyphen child of. Here you need to pass the index of the element. Nth child of a number. When I say 1, first element will match. When I say 2, second child will match. When I say 3, third child. 4, fourth child. 5, 5 child. Do you have a 6th child? No, no matching element. Only 5 childs are there. Okay. So by using the 3 methods, we can access a specific child elements from the parent element. So we have a multiple child element. So which one is a parent element here? This div is a parent element. Inside the div, there are multiple divs are there. All the other divs are child elements of the main parent div. So we can access using first child or last child or nth child. So these are a few more methods which we have in CSS. Only top to bottom is possible, but bottom to top navigation is not possible. Okay, the different ways we can create. Now, we can also use some pattern matching operators are there. There are three pattern matching operators: caret, dollar, star. So let me show you that. Okay. For example, let's say I want to locate in the second and third div tag, I want to locate this particular element, a paragraph of text. This element I want to locate. So normally we have a class attribute and ID attribute, right? We can use like this. Directly I'm writing relative CSS. I can say P is my tag name. And inside this, I can say class equal to what is the value of the class main, right? So you can say that. So this is correct. So tag and ID, tag and attribute, we specified that. And one more option here. For example, let's say here, the value of the class starting with something, let's starting with M or starting with MA or starting with MAI. I don't want to specify the complete value of the class. I don't want to specify the complete value of the class. I just want to pass some partial value. Okay, say I want to specify just, I say MA. MA is nothing but what? The class should start with MA. Will this work? Zero element. But the class value is what? Main. But I have just say only MA. So in that particular case, you can use one operator called caret symbol. So in your keyboard, you can find some character symbol that you can specify here. So the caret symbol is representing start with. But in next path, we have a method start with, end with, contains. The methods are the next path. But in CSS, we do not have such methods. Instead, we use operators. So the char operator or char symbol is representing start with. So the class name start with what? MA. Now when I enter, one element is matching. Okay, like that. So also you can use ID. So instead of class, I'm using ID attribute. Say ID start with what? PA. Start with PA. Two elements are matching. Why? Because see, the first element ID is para 1, second element ID is para 2. So both are starting with PA. So this is matching two elements this time. So in this particular case, we cannot use start with. Instead, we can use end with. End with we can use. So end with the symbol is what? Dollar sign. So end with the symbol is dollar sign. So here, instead of PA, I will say 2. Will it match? No. ID dollar equal to 2. But ID dollar equal to 2. So para 2 is there. So is matching? Not matching. Put in quotes. Yes. We need to keep inside the code. So one element is matching. You can see this. One element. Why one element? Because in para 1, para 2, the para 2 is ending with the 2. So dollar sign is representing end with. Dollar sign is representing end with. Or you can say A2 also. End with A2. End with A1, first element. End with A2, second element. So dollar sign is representing end with. Caret symbol is representing start with. Okay. Suppose I want to use some character should be there in the attribute, like contains method. Contains, how we can use contains, substring. So if you want to use contains, use star symbol, star. So for example, let's say P in attribute, you can use either ID or class, whatever. I'm using class. I say class equal to, I say main. Class equal to main. So this is matching with one element. So the paragraph or text is matching. Now I don't want to provide the complete value. When I say only first MA, then you can use start with char symbol. Suppose if you want to use the last characters, then you have to use a dollar sign. But this time I want to use something else. Let's say AI I'm using. So will this match the element? No element. But how we can use it? This is actually a substring of the main value, right? So if I look at this, class value is what? Main. But I'm just saying AI. AI is what? The middle characters of the entire value. So in this case, you can use star. Star representing contains, only three symbols. Caret symbol representing start with, dollar symbol representing end with, star representing contains. So now this AI, wherever, whichever the attribute, the class attribute contains this AI, that will match. One element is matching. Let's say UB, one element is matching. You can see this one, class UB. So UB is end with, right? UB is the last characters. Can I use dollar sign here? Dollar. Yes, obviously we can use dollar also because end with UB only, right? Either dollar sign you can use, this one also you can use. These are the three symbols we can use inside the CSS. Okay. And a few more things. I will provide the notes for all these things. You can just go through once. Okay. Now let me show you some more combinations. So is it possible to specify multiple attributes for the element? Yes, obviously it is specified. For example, let's say take this element again. So P is an attribute. So I'm just I'm putting one attribute. Let's say ID equal to para1. So one attribute, one element is matching. Can I specify another attribute? Yes. So I can put another bracket and another attribute you can specify. So this time I can say class equal to main. Class equal to main. So in this particular case, both ID and class, both the attribute should match. Then only it will able to locate the element. So I have provided two locators here. So you can see the two attributes, ID equal to para1, class equal to main. So both should match. Both should match. Then only it will able to locate the element. Okay, this is how we can put multiple attributes. Okay, for example, I want to use something called negation. I want to match with the element. I want to match with the element ID para1, but not class main, like OR operator. So in this combination, both the attributes should match with the element. Then only it will capture the element. Suppose I want to use only this one is true. The second one, I want to make it as a false. So for example, here instead of main, okay, I say something else. Will it match with this element? Zero element. But still, even though the second attribute is not true, still I want to match with the element or operator, either first one or the second one. Either one, at least one should be true. Then I want to match with the element. Then how we can specify that? So first one, either first one or the second one. Then how we can specify? So in that case, you can use something called not. You can say colon not. So this expression will match again zero element. What does it mean? PID equal to para1. So this will match, but the second one will not match. So when I use colon not operator, you need to keep that in the bracket. Okay. So after the not, you need to make it in the open bracket. The entire thing you need to put in the open bracket. Now you can say one element is matching. So even though the class attribute is correct, not correct, still it is matching with the element. Means the first one is true, second one is false. Okay. Now let's make it as opposite. Now I want to make first one is false, second one is true. Then how we can make it happen? So you can remove this not for the second one, remove the open bracket also. Now we want to make it first one is invalid. How we can make it first one invalid? Let's say para, let's say 1 1. This is invalid. Now how we can say this is invalid? You can put not operate in front of the bracket before starting the attribute colon not. When I use colon not, you have to keep this in the open bracket. So after the not, so this has to keep inside the open bracket. So here I say open bracket here and here. So in this case, even though the first one is not valid, still second one is matching and this will locate the web element. This is how we can use not operator. For example, both are invalid. Let's say this one and this one, both are invalid. Obviously, if both are invalid, you won't locate any element. But if I say not for both elements, I can say remove the not for now. Remove this. Okay, 0 elements are matching. So I can say 1. Pair of 1, main. So this element is matching 1 element. Now I don't want to use both. Like ID is invalid, class is also invalid. That I want to specify. So in that case, what I can say? I can say not, keep the first one in the bracket. Okay, bracket. And again, one more not for the second one and put in the bracket. 3 elements are matching. What does it mean actually? This is a negation. Negation means what? Match elements, and those elements should not have the ID para1 should not have class equal to main. Other than this element, rest of all other elements will be matched. This is completely opposite. So ID should not be para1, class should not be main. Okay. Apart from this, what other elements are matching? Suppose if we take second element, para1 and sub, is it matching with this CSS? Yes, because IDs para1 should not be. So here para2. Class main, it should not be. Even class equal to sub, it is matching. So other than these two attributes, if any other attributes are matching with any other elements, will be returned. So with this para1 and main, there is only one element is matching. But other than para1 and main, other elements are matching. So whatever other elements are matching, those elements will be returned. This is completely opposite. Okay, if I don't specify not, what will happen? Only one element is returning, which is matching with para1 and main. When I say not, then what happens? Other than para1 and main, what are other elements are matching? Those elements are returning. So overall 3 elements are there. Okay, this is how we can also use not operator. Not operator. For single attribute, multiple attributes. Okay. Similarly, so we have seen how to capture the child elements using first element, last element, nth element. Suppose if you want to capture immediate child element for single child element, then we have another approach. Let's say P is my tag name. So here I can say ID equal to para1. Okay, this is the element. ID equal to para1. So where it is, this is the element. So what is the sibling element of this? Sibling is nothing but sibling. This is a sibling element. So right after this particular node, this one, para2, para1, the immediate node is what? Parent. So both are having same parent. Then we call them as a sibling elements. So now I have written the CSS for para1. Now from this element, I want to capture the sibling element. From this element, below the element, whatever the element is there below, that element I want to capture. That means I want to capture this para2 element. So then simply you can use one more plus operator, plus P. Plus is representing the sibling. So when I say plus P, one element is matching. So actually para1 is what? This one, a paragraph of text. Plus P means what? Immediate sibling. It is not child element. Okay, it is a sibling element. So if you want to access the next element P, you can say plus P. This is one operator we have. Okay, when I say star, again there is only one P. We have got a. Suppose if you have a 10 P's or 100 P's, then when I say star, it will capture all the P's like that. Okay, so this is how we can use CSS. So these are few important options which are available in CSS. We can use it in our automation. Okay, so I'll share one document which contains all these combinations. You can do one round of practice and you can use them in your automation. So whichever the combination you have created CSS, so whichever way you created, the way of using the locator in your automation is same process. Page that locator and keep that locator option inside the double quotes, and then you can locate that element. Okay, that's it. So this is all about CSS locators. Okay. So that's it. So you can just do practice, one round of practice. I will share this document I have. I put all the combinations. What is CSS locators? Okay, what is absurd CSS? Means full path. Different examples. And this is relative CSS locator shortcuts and specific children. How we can extract the specific children using first child, last child, and the child, and how we can use pattern matching with CSS, and how we can use not operator combining multiple selectors. So I have given all the notes. Just go through the notes and you will understand. Just do, you can take any other websites and you can do some practice on this. And very important, especially Playwright perspective. Okay, in the next class, we will understand about XPath concept. Okay. All right, so I'll stop here. You can just practice this and we'll continue in the next class tomorrow.